Pete Hegseth's name echoed across the congressional chamber in a way that no one expected, not for a policy victory, not for a patriotic speech, but for a question that seemed almost unthinkable: had the Secretary of Defense leaked classified military plans while drunk? It was Representative Jimmy Gomez who threw down the challenge, and the silence that followed told its own story. This wasn't a routine exchange or a partisan jab. It was a moment that cut straight to the core of trust, discipline, and national security. Because when the nation's top defense officials are accused of mixing alcohol with secrets, the implications aren't just personal, they're global.
Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to make a few things clear before we move on to other questions regarding the Signal chat. Director Gabbard, yesterday before the Senate Intelligence Committee, specifically when answering Senator Kelly, you repeatedly said you did not recall any discussion in the Houthi PC small group discussing operational details, strike targets, the type of vehicles and military units involved, or the timing and order of strikes. Do you stand by your testimony from yesterday that you do not recall any of the discussions regarding this type of classified information? Yes or no?
My response in the Senate yesterday, yes, I stand by that response. Obviously, the release of the screenshots that came from that chat group today were a refresher on what happened. As I said earlier, I was not involved with that portion of the chat, so it did not come to my recollection yesterday.
Thank you. So I take that as you stand by your do not recall yesterday stance when you're asked those questions. You've been in office 43 days. Director Radcliffe has been in office 62 days. This was considered the first major military operation using lethal force of the Trump administration. Was this the first, this was probably the first time that you've been involved with a discussion like this on a thread. It was not discussing, you were not on a group chat discussing where we're gonna go for lunch. You're discussing putting men and women of the armed services in harm's way. That's a major decision. So, and when did that happen? 10 days ago? Okay, I'll answer that. It happened 10 days ago. Here's the point. Like something of this magnitude, it's something that you would not forget. It's something that most people, if you're taking this job so seriously, that you would not forget. I mean, since I've been on this committee, there's been days that I have woken up in the middle of the night from the things I've learned in SCIF. So deciding to use military force is something hard to imagine. So the do not recall doesn't pass the smell test. It makes it, it's unbelievable that was the case. So that's what the American people don't understand. And I know a lot of folks in this administration were saying that they're gonna take on the establishment and drain the swamp, but you have become that swamp in a matter of days, not weeks or months, days. So one of the things we're gonna look into is what actually occurred, because the American people deserve a full accounting. Additionally, the main person who was involved in this thread that a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
You know, no, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. No, I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue.
Was his performance compromised because of a successful strike?
Back. I bring my,
you want to know, you want to talk about accepting responsibility? Do you think you should accept responsibility for a successful strike to make Americans safer? You want to focus on...
I reclaim my time. So here's the thing. This is serious. As somebody, we've been briefed in this committee about using Signal. One of the things they basically said, the most secure phone call, the least secure text messaging. And we know that your people are Russians, Chinese are on your phone.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Clark.
Allies wonder if America's leaders are steady. Adversaries see cracks to exploit. And the American people are left asking if those in charge of life or death decisions can't keep their judgment clear. What else is slipping through the cracks? What Gomez revealed that day was more than a scandal. It was a test of credibility and perhaps of America itself. The first cracks appeared when Tulsi Gabbard was pressed on her memory. She sat before Congress asked directly whether she recalled discussions inside a private Signal chat that reportedly touched on operational details of one of the Trump administration's earliest military strikes, details like timing, targets, and units involved. Her answer: she didn't remember. She insisted again and again that those conversations had slipped from her mind, but Representative Jimmy Gomez wasn't buying it. He reminded the room that these weren't casual exchanges about lunch schedules or logistics. This was about placing men and women of the U.S. military directly into harm's way. In his words, decisions of this magnitude don't vanish from memory after 10 days. They leave marks. They keep officials awake at night. Gomez underscored his disbelief by sharing his own experience, sleepless nights after classified briefings that haunted him long after leaving the secure room. The contrast was striking, one official claiming to forget, another describing the weight of responsibility so heavy it lingers even in dreams. And that disconnect, Gomez argued, was exactly why the American people had reason to question whether the truth was being hidden behind the convenient shield of "I don't recall." Jimmy Gomez drove the point home with a reminder that military operations are not routine paperwork, they are decisions etched into memory. He spoke about the way those choices carry human consequences, shaping not just battlefields but families, lives, and futures. These aren't discussions that fade with time, they are moments that sear themselves into anyone who takes the responsibility seriously. To Gomez, it was inconceivable that someone could sit in a classified chat, hear talk of strike targets, units deployed, and the timing of lethal action, then casually claim those memories had evaporated. He stressed that every strike represents soldiers risking their lives, enemies who will retaliate, and civilians who may be caught in the middle. That is not the sort of thing officials forget, it's the kind of knowledge that keeps you awake at night, playing over in your head again and again. And in drawing this sharp contrast, Gomez painted a troubling picture. Was this a case of selective memory? Or worse, was it an attempt to bury details that the public was never meant to know? Either way, the hearing was about to take a turn no one in the room expected. Then came the moment that shifted the entire hearing from procedural to explosive. With the room tense and eyes locked on him, Jimmy Gomez asked if Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had been drinking before allegedly leaking classified information. It was a question so blunt, so personal, that it stunned both witnesses and colleagues. Some immediately dismissed it as offensive, even inappropriate. Director Radcliffe snapped back with a firm denial, calling the line of questioning disrespectful. Others bristled, arguing it was irrelevant to the matter at hand. But politically the damage was already done. The allegation, whether true or not, was now on record, echoing across headlines and social media feeds. The power of the moment wasn't in the evidence because no hard proof was presented. It was in the imagery the question conjured: America's top defense official, a drink in one hand and secrets in the other, blurring the line between personal vice and national duty. Even without confirmation, the very idea created doubt. And Gomez knew exactly what he was doing. By asking the question, he forced the public to picture it, to wrestle with the possibility, and to wonder how secure America really was under such leadership. Even without proof, the question shook the foundation of trust. In national security, perception can be as dangerous as reality. If the public begins to believe that a top defense official might mix classified information with impaired judgment, confidence in the Pentagon falters. Allies begin to wonder whether America's decisions are made with clear heads. Adversaries, meanwhile, see weakness, an opening to exploit. This was the bigger risk Gomez was pointing to, not just the allegation itself but what it symbolized. Leadership in defense isn't only about strategy or firepower, it's about discipline, steadiness, and judgment. The very idea that such qualities could be compromised by carelessness or personal habits struck at the heart of America's image of itself as a global leader. Critics framed Gomez's question as a cheap shot, a headline grabber with no basis. But supporters countered that it raised a necessary standard. If our leaders cannot uphold the discipline expected of every soldier in the field, then what message does that send to the troops who must follow orders without hesitation? And beneath it all lingered the unease, because even if the answer was no, the very fact the question needed asking was alarming. Beneath the drama of accusations lay a quieter but equally troubling issue: the tools of communication. Gomez reminded the hearing that signal, while encrypted and trusted by activists and journalists worldwide, is not the gold standard for national security. In fact, intelligence experts have long warned that text-based apps, even encrypted ones, leave digital trails that adversaries like Russia and China are eager to exploit. The problem isn't just theoretical. Every message carries metadata: who spoke to whom, when, and how often. For hostile intelligence services, even that limited picture can be enough to map operations, identify chains of command, and predict movements. And if screenshots of those chats can surface in the public domain, as they did here, then the illusion of total security collapses instantly. To Gomez, this wasn't paranoia, it was common sense. High-stakes decisions about lethal strikes weren't supposed to live in the same space as casual group chats. They belonged in secure classified settings where every word is shielded, logged, and accountable. And yet here they were, debating whether operational details of a U.S. strike had been casually shared in an app vulnerable to foreign eyes. It was a reminder sometimes the smallest tools can create the biggest risks. At its core, the controversy revealed something deeper than apps or allegations. National security isn't only shaped by classified files, encrypted servers, or top-secret protocols. It's shaped by people, by their discipline, their judgment, their choices in moments that may seem small but carry enormous weight. A single decision to share sensitive details in the wrong place, a lapse in memory during a hearing, or even the perception of impaired judgment can ripple outward, affecting not just reputations but global stability. Gomez's line of questioning tapped into this reality. He wasn't just asking whether officials remembered a chat or whether a drink was involved. He was asking whether those entrusted with America's defense understood the gravity of their roles at all times. Because in his view, accountability isn't optional, it's the standard. And that's what makes hearings like this so consequential. They strip away the polished talking points and expose whether leaders take their duty seriously or treat it as something casual, forgettable, or negotiable. In national defense, human error is often the weakest link. And when the stakes are measured in lives, one careless act or one forgotten detail can be the difference between safety and catastrophe. What unfolded in that hearing wasn't just about Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, or even Jimmy Gomez. It was about the system itself, the way America handles its most guarded secrets, and the standards we expect from those who carry them. Because at the heart of the clash was a question bigger than one official's memory or one pointed allegation: can the nation truly rely on its leaders when the stakes are life and death? Gomez's fiery questioning laid bare a reality many prefer to ignore. Classified decisions are not abstract, they ripple into families, battlefields, and the fragile trust that allies place in the United States. A forgotten chat, a reckless word, or even the perception of carelessness can unravel that trust faster than any enemy attack. That's why hearings like this matter. They force uncomfortable questions into the open, stripping away the comfort of excuses and demanding clarity where vagueness once stood. The issue is not whether one man had a drink or one official misplaced a memory. The issue is whether accountability still means something at the highest levels of power. Because if those entrusted with secrets cannot be trusted with themselves, then what happens next?